Chapter 1 Introduction Unit A Historical Writing on India Changing Approaches to Indian History. The main thing you need to study from this chapter is historiography. So, historiography is nothing but the study of writing history. So, in this chapter, you will know in detail that how to write history. Indian scholarship in the past covered such a wide range that hardly any aspect of human activity was ignored. So the human activities was ignored in Indian past. But when we come to history, as we understand it today, we are sadly disappointed. Listen carefully. If chronology, what is chronology? Chronology is a study of historical records to establish the dates of past events. So, if chronology is the eye of history, ancient Indian history will always be blind. So they don't have any particular event. If there is a particular event, so the date are not at all mentioned by themselves. So if the chronology is the eye of history, ancient Indian history will always to be blind. But during medieval and modern period of their history, historiography. So this historiography is the study of writing history. So this historiography has made a notable progress. Listen carefully. If history is an inquiry into the past, so in short it is the meaning of history. So if history is an inquiry into the past with logical purpose of explaining its causes and consequences, so this ancient India had no historical sense. Or if history is a scientific record of unique events set in their correct perspective. Perspective is nothing but having or showing sensitive insight. So, if history is a scientific record of unique events set in their correct perspective, but these Indians were ignorant of it. If history is philosophy in motion, so this philosophy in motion says that a branch of a philosophy concerned with exploring questions on the existence and nature of motion. So if it has happened, we have doubted whether this happens, what was it, if it exists, how does it come, from where does it come. So if history is philosophy in motion, Indian could never be excelled or shine. If history is a record of growth of human mind, Indians do surely have a history. Historiography is all about historians' way of reconstructing the past. So, in simple words, historiography is a study of writing history. So here it tells that historiography is all about historians' way of reconstructing past. It is about the times of which he is a product, who is our people or the man is a product. So we are writing the history of a person. How does he live? How he spent his life? What was the way of living? This is what the question. So historiography is all about historian's way of reconstructing the past. It is about the time of which he is a product. The historical tradition of modern India is a colonial inheritance. Though these British people, they came to India to settle. So it evolved out of the combination of European historical method in India and impact of colonial ideology and its imitative or similar or contemporary responses in India. So here during the time of existence of colonial, or they became the natives of Indian. So they, whatever the policies they tell this India used to follow. Next, there is certainly a debate between those who think that ancient Indians were devoid of historical sense, because these Indians were not at all knowing what is history like that, and those who think that they did have history sense. So there were the debate that some of them think that ancient Indians have no sense of history, and those who think that they have the sense of history. But undoubtedly, there is limitless stuff, that means unending stuff of history concealed in the form of legends, myths, traditions, epics, Puranas, and a variety of kind of literary records which are not history in themselves, but historical material of which history is composed. But ancient India did not build historical mansion. The main theme of colonial historiography. So this colonial historiography is the study of writing history in a colonial way. So the main theme of colonial histography was the empire. Once British has established their role in India, there was a justification for conquest. So who came here? Who built this? Who built this empire? Who built this road, railways, whatever it be? So once the British had established their role in India, there was a justification for the conquest. It was seen an expression and proof of British superiority, both in military matters and their national character over the conquered natives. In India, historical research began just to satisfy the administrative needs of British Empire. It is quite evident that Europeans learned, codified and wrote Indian history in its initial stage for their administrative needs. Indian history opposed Eurocentric view that Indians lack historical sense. So this Eurocentric view is nothing but focusing on European culture, history to the exclusion of wider view of world. So Indian historian opposed Eurocentric view that Indians lacked historical sense but argued that they did not have a systematic approach for the same. In the early days, Indian historians imitated Western scholars in the method of recording history, but in later stage evolved their own styles, that means Indian style. In Europe, historiography or writing of history or study of writing history became an independent branch of knowledge during the time of British historian Edward Gibbon 1737 to 1794. So this Edward Gibbon, he had advocated history means freeing history from the clutches of religion and church, and believed that history happens with the nature and the idea of human being. So according to Edward Gibbon, he advocated that history is freeing history from clutches of religion and church, and believed that history happens with the nature and ideas of human being. During the time of Edward Gibbon, during this period, Britain had colonized India, which led to writing history of India for British administrative compulsion. Gibbon influenced administrators, soldiers and traders who had their political influence on administrative machinery. Next, the two political parties of Britain, they were liberals and conservative. They were colonialists but had different approaches in their functioning. These liberals and conservative, they were settled in India but they had different approaches in writing or functioning. In the same period, many schools of thought originated and they interpreted about the method of Indian control. So they were Orientalists, utilitarians, imperialists and Christian missionaries or evangelicals, etc.